Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Tony Glasgow. Thank you for joining me. So if I've already got you listening on YouTube, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe. Just let me know how I'm doing. Leave a comment if you feel like it. And if you're on your favorite podcast player, go ahead and download this episode so you can listen to it over and over again. So last year I did a show on the North Texas draftees that were drafted into the NFL. And I've got a comprehensive list and kind of want to go over the season ending stats and just give you an idea of how each one of them did. So I'm not going to go in the same order that I did when I did the show. I kind of selected different order. So first we've got Ladarius Henderson. He's a guard from Waxahachie, Texas, and he was drafted by the Texans. And he had a foot injury that caused the Texans to waive him, and that also placed him on the IR, and that knocked him out for the entire 2024 season. So he underwent surgery, so they're expecting a full return, full recovery. So he'll pick up a team in the spring. So good luck to that young man. Next up, we have Ryan Watts, DB from Little Elm. He was drafted by the Steelers, and he also suffered a season-ending injury against the Lions. He took a helmet to the knee, and he was able to walk off the field under his own power, but he was later given the news of the severity of the injury. So he had a promising season with 13 tackles and a pass breakup in the preseason, and of course a tremendous college career. And hopefully we'll see him back on the field next season. All right, next up we have Brandon Coleman, who's an offensive lineman from Denton, Texas, where we live right now. He was drafted by the Commanders, and he started off the season with a slight pectoral injury, but it didn't keep him out of the starting lineup. A week 7 concussion did force him to sit out. He started the Commanders' next game, and he also suffered it wasn't a season-ending injury, but it was late in the season. He returned to the lineup to finish the game against the Cowboys, so it wasn't too bad, and they expect him to be back with no issues next season. Next up is Ennis Rakestraw. He's a DB from Duncanville, and he was drafted by the Lions. He didn't start. He recorded 6 tackles and 4 solo, 2 assists in the 8 games that he played. So he did not start, but he played in 8 games. In the season opener, he only played 3 snaps against the Rams, and the team felt like he needed some more time to develop and just carve out a more consistent role through his development. In week 4 against the Seahawks, he was nursing a hamstring injury and did not make an appearance in that game. But after that, he was in the lineup as a backup to the starters that were in his position. So now we've got Trey Traylor. He's a safety from Frisco Lone Star, and he was drafted by the Raiders. He missed the Raiders' first 4 games due to a knee injury and was in danger of going on the IR for the rest of the season. But he made his debut against the Steelers in week 6, and he hasn't made the stat sheet yet, but he played in 9 games, so he's been in the action, but he hasn't actually recorded any stats. So they expect him to keep up the same pace as far as playing time and being able to get on the field. And we'll just have to keep an eye on Trey and see if he starts to get comfortable with that defensive scheme they're running there. All right, next up, Jalen Ford. He's a linebacker from Frisco Lone Star as well. He did not start week 1 or 2 due to a hamstring injury that he suffered in camp. He made his debut in week 3 against the Eagles, and he didn't start the season, but he played in 8 games, and in those 8 games, he recorded 8 tackles. And so he's getting some time, and he's making the most of it, and we'll definitely see him again next year. All right, next up, we've got Jace McClellan, running back from Aledo, Texas, very close to home also, and he was drafted by the Falcons. He came into a situation where there was already a top-tier running back in Bijan Robinson, so he had a slight knee injury that also held him out the first 2 weeks, so that wasn't something that went in his favor. He was listed as the 4th running back, so it was a little bit of a struggle to reach the field for him in the season, even in a healthy situation. He was finally able to get in some snaps in the blowout against the Seahawks in week 7, and he managed to get the call over the number 3 back and gained 17 yards on 5 carries. It seems this is going to be very difficult. Like I said, with the stacked running back core like that, that may be a little bit tough sledding for him, but he's on the roster. That means he's got a chance. All right, now we've got Byron Murphy, defensive tackle from DeSoto, Texas, and he went to the Seahawks. He started only 1 game, but he played in 5 total games with 12 tackles, 24 assists, which is a total of 36 that he was credited for. Also credited for a half a sack, for 4.5 yards, and 2 tackles for loss. When it got to week 3 against the Dolphins, he had to leave the game with the hamstring injury, and he missed almost a month recovering, and came back and had a very strong performance against the Falcons and the Bills, recording 5 of his season total in tackles in those 2 games. He came back strong, but Murphy suffered another late injury in the season and was cleared to play the season finale against the Rams. So he'll be back as well in that roster. And last but definitely not least, we've got Jatavian Sanders, Denton Ryan High School, and he was drafted by the Panthers. Total season stats are 33 receptions for 342 yards and a touchdown, which is a 21.4 average per game. He started 8 games and appeared in 16 with an average of almost 21.5 yards per game. In week 2, he had more snaps than the returning tight end, and that returning tight end was coming back from injury, so he garnered 2 receptions in that game to solidify the coach's decision to put him in. Late in the season, in week 12, he suffered a neck injury against the Chiefs, and then he returned to the active list in week 14 against the Eagles. So it's a little bit of a nervous moment when he did get hurt. We actually were watching that one live when we saw him go down, and so they carted him off, and we found out later that he was okay, so that's a good thing. He returned 2 weeks later to play, so it was definitely not a major injury, and we wish all these young men health, success. Well, that's the catch-up that I have for you for the 2024 draftees from North Texas. Again, like I mentioned on my first show, if I left someone out that you know, I'll write up something and give a report on whoever that is, so let me know. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.